Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. The chairman of the Independent Electoral Commission, INEC, Professor Mahmood Yakubu, on Saturday cited logistics and operational challenges of the management of 91 political parties, 23,316 candidates from whom votes will be cast in 119,973 polling units by 84 million voters as the reason for the postponement of Nigeria's general election by 1 week. Joining us now to speak on what the postponement means for his political party is the chairman and presidential candidate of the abundant Nigerian Renewal Party, Tope Fasua. Tope Fasua, you are welcome to our program.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Yeah. Now, straight to you. From the reasons INEC gave for this postponement at the 11th hour, what is your take for a start?
Okay, thank you very much. I think the real issue is that it came at the 11th hour, about 5 hours to the commencement of voting, which is very off-putting, if you like. However, there are several implications to this. As things stand now, we're still at a loss as to whether campaigns should continue, for example. I personally believe that according to the law and the Constitution, campaigns can continue up until 24 hours to the vote, and the vote has not taken place. So we're a bit confused as to INEC's take on that. However, if campaigns continues, that means that all parties and all contenders will have to continue spending. And so in risk management, this is called counterparty risk, because to a large extent, INEC is making us bear some extra costs that we shouldn't have borne in the first place. And I think I raised that with them at the consultative meeting that they had on Saturday at the International Conference Center. So this has implications far and wide. Just as INEC is going to have to spend further on logistics and so on, so also with every contender, every candidate, as well as every party have to keep spending. I'm running for presidency, and I've traveled about 34 states in this country in the last few months. And, this is massive. And, of course, we have to start incentivizing people who will act as our polling agents. And we've been doing this for days now. However, we've spent money, but we'll have to spend again. So this is very interesting and very, very, very expensive for us. That said, I would actually also want to sort of concede to INEC that indeed, of course, it is true that now all of a sudden we have about 91 parties to deal with. That's a different level of logistics that they needed to plan. However, also, I was stuck in Benin for about 3 or 4 days that flights were not landing in Benin. I heard the same thing happened in Enugu. Up till now, flights are not going into or out of Benin, for example. Perhaps, I don't know, we have all these new challenges coming up, informing us about the future. If we were thinking about, how to mitigate against some of these things in the future, what should INEC have done? If, for example, there's this huge mist around most of Nigeria right now. Even on the 11th of this month, I was to travel to Kano, I couldn't as well. So what do they do? This also points to the fact that we need to start moving towards some sort of electronic balancing. All of this idea of moving paper all over the place, it's very expensive. And I think that the quicker we begin to move into some sort of electronic way of voting that is a bit paper-free, and I think we should be able to think through these things. The issue is that in Nigeria, though, we've not been very great at thinking through processes. Sometimes we just get to a certain point, everybody throws up their hands, and the entire system collapses. So people are thinking, okay, why can't they vote anywhere they live using their card? After all, they're used to ATM cards, and then, why can't they vote for anybody they want? And then we're thinking of that. I think right now, what these things are telling INEC and every one of us is that it's a good time to begin to pilot some sort of electronic voting side by side with the manual one that we're used to. As many of us have seen this done elsewhere, and I think that it is doable in this country too. The earlier we start, the better. So the implications are still many. we are actually hoping that, okay, come Saturday, the votes will actually take place. It's going to be a very, very testy time for Nigeria. We are hoping that the votes will take place come Saturday and that nothing will happen that would want to make us shift this thing again. We heard that there was an attempt to stagger the votes, which some of us don't believe we should, because it's going to give an opportunity to some sort of coercion from a certain political party. We're not going to stand up for that.
Okay, just to be clear where you stand on this issue of whether campaigns should continue or not. INEC said no more campaigns. You are saying you believe it should be, and at the same time you are complaining that you will have to spend more money on campaigns.
Absolutely.
So where do you stand?
Absolutely. It's a chicken and egg issue. The truth is that by the law, the campaigns should continue. Who finances the campaign is a different ballgame entirely. And I've told you about the issue of counterparty risk. The issue is that INEC has made us to bear that unnecessary risk or to bear this unnecessary cost when a lot of us had programmed our spending to culminate at a certain point in time. But here we are, we're going to have to spend again one way or the other. But, you know, we are in breach of the law right now. You know, INEC is in breach of the law if it says that we cannot campaign. I think that wasn't a very tactical comment from the chairman of INEC. The issue is that campaigns should continue. As a matter of fact, you know, for parties like mine, you know, we stand a better chance of gaining a few more voters between now and that point, because you see, people are seeing that the current system is inefficient as well. You know, my party, ANRP, our logo is a computer, for example. People are seeing that, look, is it not good to go to this computer party where these guys are thinking forward? They have a few young men there and so on, driving, and women, you know, running the process. So, but now that you say we're not going to campaign, it's like you're shutting us down as well, which is also a way of rigging. And then again, let's even think about the issue of, you know, disenfranchisement of a lot of voters, those who have traveled home, people who have businesses. Should they remain in that place where they've gone to and all that, which also brings back the issue of, you know, electronic voting, or beginning to think in terms of electronic voting, because people who have gone home, you know, why do they have to go home to vote in the first place? You can actually vote from your computer or from anywhere you are. You can vote for the person in your local government who you want to vote for. Maybe everybody will have an opportunity to vote for about 5 or 6 people, your president, your senator, your, you know, whoever you want to. You have one to vote and all of that. So these are the things that's going on. Now, the economy was shut down on Saturday. And if we look at the economy in terms of, you know, how can we tell how much money we lost? Let's look at the GDP. $420 billion is our national GDP per year. Meaning that for a day, at least, we'll be looking at about $1.2, $1.3 billion. Okay, let's say it's a Saturday. So we can even discount that at about 30%. At least $300 to $400 million was lost on Saturday. Now, if we don't take a decision on this very quickly, we're going to have a reduced economic activity all through that period. And if it's extended further, it's going to be disastrous on the economy, an economy that's still teetering the verges of a recession still after quite a while. So, yes, it's a paradox that we need to be campaigning right now, but who is going to finance the campaign? We've been financing this. We are parties that were created. We were not lucky to get any funding from INEC, zero funding from INEC. And then, of course, every time we get compared with all of these guys, some of the so-called 2 big parties who got funding from INEC when they were started for several years, even for decades. And these guys, that's why they are rich you know, and people say, oh, they are everywhere. Why wouldn't they be everywhere when they got money from INEC? And now INEC, the same INEC is having not funded us one dime since we were created, which is a great thing. But the problem is, how do we balance it with this fact that, you know, this thing is skewed, and there's these guys that they had funded heavily, massively, billions upon billions of naira over the years. All right, how do we balance that? You know, so but you haven't funded us, but now you're making us incur unnecessary expenses on logistics and otherwise. So it's a great time for us to have this discussion.
Mr. Fasua, I have 2 quick questions for you. Have you seen the ballot paper specimen? I mean, it has 91 political parties and 73 presidential candidates, including yourself. Does that worry you? Does it scare you that there might be increased invalid votes this time around? And what are you doing in that aspect? And let me also ask you, it has taken over a year to prepare for these elections, and logistical hiccups have caused it to be postponed. But INEC is promising that in the next 1 week, 5 days from now, it will hold the same elections. Are you confident that the elections will hold? And there are those who are calling for the umpire's boss resignation. Is your party subscribing to that call?
First, no, well, I personally, this is my position, not the party's position. I wouldn't subscribe to the resignation of the INEC chairman. Except we don't want to even go to vote at all, you know. These things can happen. As a matter of fact, we had the same, something worse, a bit worse in 2015. 6 weeks of postponement in 2015. We did not ask the man to leave. And the man actually, Jagaden, ran the elections, and at the end of the day, an opposition person came in. So, and then he got accolades for that. 2011, we also had postponement while the elections had already started. And we did not call for any INEC chairman to resign. Now, if you want the chairman to resign, who are you going to bring in? Through what processes? How is the person, how competent will that person be? Can we tell who's going to be the person? So what's the point? We shouldn't be preposterous with some of our assertions. And of course, again, mind you, indeed, there could have been a honest situation, like I confirmed to you, even if you stepped out right now, depending on where you are, the coastal cities are a bit clearer, maybe Lagos, because there's been a bit of rain in Lagos this year, and so on. But when you begin to move to the north, you would see that there's a large, very thick fog. For some reason, I don't know why it's coming at this time. So perhaps it's honest. Perhaps, this thing actually has happened this way. What we should begin to think forward, and that's what we're not good at in this country. We should begin to think forward and say, okay, given this fact, do you know, for example, that every time when we have a major elections like this, we have had to test new waters? For example, things we never prepared for. Okay, this country, we had to bring out what is called a doctrine of necessity, which is something that actually does not exist, in order to push Yar'Adua out of the way and bring in Jonathan. Then the last time we had to deal with how do we sort out a scenario where an opposition party wins an election. I've always believed, because nobody knows tomorrow, that this election of 2019 is going to give us a totally different new scenario for us to deal with. And so what we need to be doing right now is to be better at dealing with issues, all right? We have to be better at dealing with issues. We have to be better at imagining issues. We're not very good at that. Most Nigerians cannot think, especially those who are very big on, education. Of course, we have our education system, which is just like a case of, having laurels and so on, not solving problems. Now we're being forced to solve problems with that education that we say we have. Many of us cannot think beyond 1 or 2 steps in a chess game. You know what I'm saying? So, but now is the time that we're having to say, okay, suppose you have a totally new scenario that you've never anticipated. What do you do? All right, and that's the scenario where we find ourselves right now. So in terms of 91 parties, it's a logistic issue because all of a sudden, there's a lot more things to print. There are a lot more people contending for elections across the board. It's great. We should look at it from a positive perspective. There must be a reason why this is going on, because Nigerians, especially the younger ones and the not so young ones, are stepping forward to say that, look, we need to get involved now. I wasn't political until recently. I didn't get in the political fray. And there's still a lot more people who should be involved in the political space that are not in the political space now. And I tell them, you have to get off Facebook and Twitter and all of that. In fact, a lot of people who deliberately disenfranchise themselves. There are too many people in NGOs in this country who would rather be observers rather than voters. You have to find a way that you can also observe while you are voting. Too many people are taking themselves out of the equation, And again, I want to say that by 2023, we are going to see a lot more people, I can assure you. Why? Because some of us are contesting. For example, now, people are looking at me and say, is it not that Tope that we know? If you can contest for president and nothing happened there, they too will get involved. If you think that the space is crowded in 2019, wait for 2023. INEC will be forced to register a lot more parties, whether they like it or not. Because if people can fulfill the obligations of forming a political parties, they will have to register those parties, number one. Number two, a lot more people are going to contest, whether for presidency and everything, because, hey, especially if we don't get it right this time, especially if we get another, I'm sorry to say, another mediocre government in place, then, of course, things are going to go downhill. People are going to, like, rise up. What we've started is a revolution. So I'm not very concerned that there will be, of course, there'll be a lot of more invalid votes. We don't know how that ballot paper is really going to look like. I don't know. I don't know. If you mentioned 91, I've not seen the one that has 91 parties and 73. But I would expect that, okay, fine. If you had 72 or 73 contenders or thereabout for presidency, ordinarily it shouldn't even be that much. A lot of people step down for different kind of people. They should have been taken out of that ballot paper. If you ask me, and that's what should have happened. You know, because, I mean, what's the point? And all the people talking about coalition, I know that a number of people stepped out for one or two of these other big parties, right? And they should be taken out so we have a cleaner ballot paper, especially for the presidency. And anywhere that people have started to step down, they should have officialized it so that we know that we're doing the right thing here. But so it doesn't matter. There'll be quite a number of invalid. There'll be quite a number of random voting also. Because what will happen, so we're saying now, I mean, we have a 3-column or thereabout 3-column ballot paper, for example, meaning that you see a box on this side and another box next to it. And, you know, a lot of people are illiterate, you know, so, you know, and they can't, and many people also have sight problems. They don't see very clearly. And so you're going to see a lot of scenarios where people will just put their fingers randomly all over the place. Whatever comes the outcome, everybody has to live with that outcome. You know, it's just the way we see it, the way things are. You know, so I'm not concerned about that. I'm more concerned and I'm very happy that we have got something started in this country. When some of us were stepping up before, people were saying, "Oh, why don't you sit down? Why don't you go for councillor?" They don't, because people can't see that vision. And that's the vision I'm propagating here, that we have come to demystify leadership in this country by going for even the highest office to say, is it that you say that work is difficult? We can do it. And people are watching. Younger ones are watching. Anyone that qualifies by the Constitution, you'll see that there's going to be maybe about 1,000 people contesting for president in 2023 in this country, because this country must move ahead on the value of our ideas and nothing else. We don't have to have all the money in the world. We don't have to have been around since 1960 and all those things they talk about experience. And we don't have to join some parties that we don't believe in. We don't have to join them simply because they have their reach everywhere. No. We can have our own mind. We can have our own you know, ideologies. You know, we can have our own programs, and you know, for this country, and our own vision for this country. And of course, you know, leadership, they say, is about vision in communication and responsibility. If you can pick, we have to have people who can have the vision for this country and be able to paint their vision by communicating, whether in written terms or in spoken terms or in terms of their body language, you know, for this country. And of course, you have to have people who can take responsibility for outcomes in this country. And that's what we represent. And I believe that it's going to go a lot better from this point on.
Okay, let's go on a quick break. When we come back, we still have Tope Fasua, the presidential candidate of ANRP, here with us. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to the morning show here on the Rise News. We still have with us chairman and presidential candidate of the Abundant Nigeria Renewal Party, Tope Fasua, with us in our Abuja studios. Before we went on the break, I was trying to establish the part about level playing field. Everybody seems to be talking about, especially the political parties, about campaigning. And no one is talking about the electorate, those who go out to vote. I said in the window that was given, a lot of voters were not given the opportunity to pick up their PVCs. Why is no party actually clamoring and canvassing for INEC to probably open up the window again to allow those that were not given the opportunity, or those that were disenfranchised by not being given the opportunity to pick up their PVCs, to do that? And also, I said I wanted to take you on the allegation that has been going around the APC and sensitive materials, that a member of the APC, as a matter of fact, actually contesting in this 2019 elections is the CEO of a company that has been charged to produce sensitive materials for the elections.
Right, thank you very much. Sorry for that break in transmission. The second question was asked by, or was asked of the INEC chairman over the weekend. I think they tried to deny that, but I think there's empirical evidence that shows that something of that nature is going on, whereby someone trying to run for Senate on the platform of APC is the one printing some of their documents. I think the press should continue to barrage the INEC so that we know what the truth is in this regard. Whereas there's nothing wrong in people doing business, but that's a moral hazard to a large extent. You see, and I think because a lot more people are involved in the political process now, and of course a lot of this is going on social media and everything. So yeah, that's very important. That's very important that we get to the root of that, because it's going to cause a scenario where the election may become contentious. Already, INEC, I wish them luck, because the way these elections are going now, it's already becoming quite contentious. But I believe that for the sake of Nigeria, we should continue to maintain the peace and harmony. And we should also try to refrain from heating up the polity to a large extent. We should try our best, because at the end of the day, we have just this country. So whatever the case is. But again, people are going to have to learn that there are some things you don't do, all right? For example, I had cause to write the same INEC a while ago when some of us were excluded from a certain debate that took place, which was run by BON NEDG, which I believe that there's Nigeria's taxpayers' money in that debate, and it was done in a very opaque way. And some guys just came and said, well, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, we had a very streamlined debate where we had only 3 people, presenting their opinions. And I wrote to INEC then and said, this is the first salvo. A few parties have been given prominence at the expense of the rest of us. And now this one is going on again. This delay, there could be a lot of claims around this delay, around this postponement. There could be a lot of claims, a lot of court cases. Whereas I see a scenario where INEC is beginning to feel battle ready or battle tested. They believe that they have a lot of court cases already. Nothing can touch them. They shouldn't get into that stage of hubris. It is hubris. You don't begin to feel like you have it all covered up, and then you begin to throw caution to the wind. That won't work. Regarding, the advocacy for people who have not collected their PVCs, I think someone also pushed that question to the INEC chairman. Again, with the same idea that campaigns cannot go forward, the issue was also dismissed. In which case, but I heard that INEC is having a meeting today. I'm hoping that they'll be able to think about some of these issues. However, I also need to speak about a lot of people who didn't collect their PVCs, except in scenarios where you went and you kept going and they said they can't find your PVCs. The Nigerians should also try to be responsible to themselves and to the country. But for so long, they kept shouting, go and collect your PVCs. Actually, when I look at the numbers, and I see that there are almost 10, 12 million people who haven't collected PVCs or thereabout all over the country or more, I just can't believe it, because why would someone go through all of that and then refuse to collect the PVC? However, I believe that a lot of those numbers you see, truth be told, a lot of those numbers you see are actually, a lot of them are fake names. If you recall when they wanted to recall Dino Melai, and, of course, they had to go to this field to verify the signatures. And, of course, they brought out the INEC voters register. We could see a lot of double, triple, quadruple, replications of names. And at the end of the day, they didn't have more than 5% of voters that they could actually verify. So because there was a time, and of course it's still going on, but there was a time it was very rampant, when politicians would push in any kind of name. So you have Tope Fasua, Tope. No, of course, people bear the same name, but then you see that you want whatever, they keep on twisting it around, and it's the same person, So that's the thing. I believe that anybody that's honest enough and has had their heads properly on their shoulder and suffers so far as to even queue up and get registered, for hours. And then why would that person not go to collect their PVCs?
Well,
so now that's a problem we have in Nigeria with data. We have a problem with data in Nigeria in general, that a lot of our data is corrupted, and people, in order to get a certain advantage, they put all sorts of things inside our data. I think that's one of the things we're seeing with those PVCs.
Indeed, everyone has a role to play in this election. Let us thank you for joining us this morning. Your time is well appreciated. Tope Fasua is the chairman and presidential candidate for the Abundant Nigeria Renewal Party, ANRP. Many thanks for your time. Well, it's now time for a short break on the morning show. When we return, we'll have Oji Okwi join us with a review of the top stories in today's newspapers. Please stay tuned.